Hello everyone, this is Tom in Los Angeles. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for watching and keeping me company with this long read of Dante's Inferno, Purgatorio and Paradiso. We are now at Canto 22, 22nd Canto, which, as we said in the last video, is basically a continuation of this narrative segment that starts in the 21st canto, and it has the same really flippant tone and comedic tone, really very continuing with the same type of funny register and fairly vulgar, as we've seen. From an Inferno structure point of view, we are here seeing still the Barattieri as the sinners, people who have been corrupt politicians, fundamentally, with the difference that in Canto 21st we saw the Barattieri more under a context of an urban and civic context, within this type of civil servant activities, while in Canto 22nd, the 22nd Canto, we see them more in the courtly environment. So we have the Barattieri at court, serving very powerful people, very powerful men. And but really, the scene is the same. It's corruption and trade of favors in exchange for money. So we are still looking at this big ditch full of black pitch, and the type of grotesque similes that Dante concocts, coming especially from the animal kingdom, are I find them so fascinating. They are some of my personal favorites in this particular canto, because of the visual, because they are so, you can really see them in front of you. And these Barattieri are compared to a really long string of different animals in this particular canto. Something I've always thought about the passage between the 21st and 22nd canto is that it seems like the sound effect at the end of the 21st canto is so unique in the Divine Comedy. And if we think about Dante, all of his philosophy and theology and his noble soul, etc., how could he be particularly interested in a line about that particular trumpet sound, right? Even if it's a touch of genius, we have to admit it, at the end of that funny canto to make it end like that. But, you know, I've always thought he would be, let's say, so he would act as if he's not very interested in that type of touch of genius and just move on with something different, poetic, a little bit higher, even if we are still in the same Malevolge. However, what he does here in Canto 22 is he is almost, I think at least, joking with us, because in the first three terzine, so in the first three triplets, he almost gives us the impression that he actually has moved on from that sound joke at the end of the 21st canto, because he's talking about armies preparing in front of tournaments and war movements, things that he's seen in his life as part of the public roles that he covered. But then, all of a sudden, in line 10, he goes straight back to exactly the same joke that he did at the end of the 21st canto, where he says, "Ne già con si diversa cennamella." I've seen all these things, I've seen all these elements, army and military elements that I describe, but I never saw such a strange cennamella, sand foot or horseman forth, nor ship at sea. This cennamella is actually translated by Pinsky as flageolet, which is a type of flute. I looked into it. It's basically Dante meant one of the ancient predecessors of the bagpipe, which is something that has evolve in time. At least for what concerns Italy, we know that armies were historically marching with drums and percussions, and then in Dante's times there were some of these trumpets and flutes starting to be used as well in military operations. So he's just going back to exactly his same joke by saying, I never saw such a strange flageolet or such a strange trumpet guide an army before. So his mood and his tone is precisely the same as the one in the 21st canto. And really, it's a continuation. This is why he's also referring to what just happened. He now quotes a popular proverb, which is a little bit of a manifesto of his mixed style, or maybe even an explanation or justification of why he's doing this, why he's using this vulgar low style here. He's saying, the saying goes, or the proverb, nella chiesa coi santi e in taverna coi ghiottoni, which is translated as one must go with boozers in the tavern and with the saints in church. Something that very likely was popularly said in his times. Intent upon the pitch, he was looking at the pitch. He was still interested in trying to recognize the sinners and what was happening in the actual ditch. And here he starts with the animal similes. They are really wonderful. Like dolphins who warn sailors to save their vessels, when they arch their backs above the water, so we could discern from time to time a sinner show his back to alleviate his pain. These sinners are portrayed as animals, as dolphins, right? And you can really see the almost the big buttons of their vertebrae coming out of the pitch, still completely covered in black, but with human form, and swimming like dolphins. It's just so beautiful. And then return. It was probably a belief in the Middle Ages, and it might have even happened in reality, that some sailors were helped by dolphins in realizing that a storm was coming. Who knows if that was actually the case, but the legend was like that. And as at water's edge or in a ditch, frogs lie, concealing their feet and all their bulk with snouts above the surface. At the approach of all you can see of these frogs, and this is why Dante thinks about this particular simile, is their big eyes shining from the darkness. So everything is black, pitch black, and sometimes you can see the head of one of the sinners coming up for air, and all you can see is really his eyes, with snouts above the surface. And the approach of Margarita, sinners who lay just so, concealing themselves on every side, would twitch and pull back under the boiling. And then one of these sinners, maybe by mistake or whatever, he stays there a little bit longer. Instead of escaping quickly from the devils, he stays on the surface a little bit longer. I saw one stay, just as it happens that while one jumps below, another frog might linger where they lay. And all of a sudden, Graffia Cane, one of these demons, who was nearest, hooked him by his pitch-thick hair. So it looked to me as if he had caught an otter. He's already been compared to basically three animals: a dolphin, a frog, and an otter. And we can really see this sinner hanging by the pitchfork for his hair, because the hair is so thick that it can be used almost like spaghetti. And I think a fork with spaghetti is a good comparison or a good metaphor, even if I don't think spaghetti were already around in Dante's Florence, but since we are in the Italian background, this particular frog sinner has been identified by early commentators of the Divine Comedy as an individual called Ciampolo, which in modern Italian is a name that we say as Giampaolo or Ciampolo. But really we don't have a lot of details about him. He's simply somebody who happened to be a courtesan, and he was working in the kingdom of Navarre. It's extremely funny, this scene of this guy hanging by his hair, suspended in midair, and giving the story of his life to everybody, to Virgil, Dante, and the demons, who, by the way, Dante already told us he remembers their names perfectly well because his memory is flawless. So he reminds us. He's simply giving us the story of his life, and he was working in the court of King Thibault II in Navarre, in France, and then he was he was practicing barratry, and still Margarita locked him in a tight embrace, saying, "Stand back while I enfork him well." But they are allowing Virgil to still ask questions so that they can get a bit more information from this poor soul. So Virgil asks, among the sinners who swim under the pitch, is there any other that you know is Italian? So that Virgil and Dante can be interested. And Ciampolo answers, I parted with one who came from there just now. Would I were still below, hidden with him, from then I need not dread their hooks and talons. Virgil, in the meantime, he almost pitiless, is just continuing with his interrogation. And he goes, who was it you said you parted from when you did yourself such ill by coming ashore? And the soul says, Fragomita, he replied, he of Gallura, vessel every deceit, who kept the enemies that its master had. This soul, Ciampolo, makes two examples of barattieri, of barratry practitioners, who happen to work and live in Sardinia. Sardinia at the times of Dante was not really considered as part of Italy. In fact, the island had been conquered by Pisa, and Pisa had split it in four main regions, and Gallura was one of these four regions that Sardinia was split in. So this Fragomita was working in Gallura. Gallura was in fact governed by Nino Visconti as governor of Gallura. And Dante, we know that very probably was a friend of this, or at least an acquaintance of this Nino Visconti. This is how he knew about Fragomita, and he knew about how much of a barattiere he was. The second one is Mikhaile Danke of Logodoro. Logodoro was another one of these four regions in Sardinia, who also was a barattiere, and they came with their legendary or true stories of betraying the public good that the court was there to do for money or for other favors. At this point, we see how Ciampolo comes up with his masterwork of deceit, which is an idea of how to trick the demons into escaping from them. And so he's been thinking about how to do it, and in a perfect fraudulent way, barattiere way, very sly, he comes up with this type of idea. If you would hear Tuscans or Lombards, he says Tuscans or Lombards because he's being smart. He heard Dante and Virgil speak, and he understands that they are from Tuscany and from Lombardia. So if you want to see them, there are some that I can fetch from the pitch. But let the Malebranche stand back there, so those who come will not fear their revenge, and I will make some 7 souls appear for the lone one that I am. You're gonna gain a lot. 7 is often in Dante, just like in the scriptures, a number that is there to say not a specific figure or number, but to say a lot. I can bring a lot of the sinners to you, and I won't change my place for where I sit, but summon them by whistling, because he's saying we have a secret signal. Whenever we see that there's no demons around, that our area is not patrolled, we whistle to signal to the others that it's a good time to come up from the black pitch and get a little bit of relief from the boiling pitch. So a lie after a lie. And Cagnazzo apparently seems to be the only demon who doesn't believe this, who sees through the lie. And so he is shaking his head from side to side, and he says, just listen to this cunning trick. His aim is to jump back below. He wants to jump back. Just be careful. And Ciampolo replies, no, actually, it's true. I'm telling you that I am cunning indeed. I'm not denying my nature of a fraudulent person. I'm so bad, in fact, that at contriving greater sorrows for the band I dwell with. So you should believe me, because I take pleasure from the idea of causing a lot of pain and grief to these people that I'm going to bring up to you, which is almost believable. So it's a very cunning lie. So Alichino threatens him. He says, if you do something weird, if you try to escape us, I'm going to come after you. And remember, I have wings, so I'm going to be really very quick, and I'm going to catch you. In any case, at this point, Dante stops and talks to us, the reader, directly, because the scene that follows is such a devilish mess that he needs to introduce it properly. He says, "Oh reader, hear now of a new sport." In fact, in Italian he says, "Udirai nuovo ludo," a new game, almost, because it's almost playful, led by the very one who first opposed it. And it's very clear what happens here. The Navarrese, Ciampolo, as soon as he can, jumps back in the pitch. The demon follows him, but the Navarrese is too quick, so the demon needs to plane or fly just very close to the surface of the pitch. In fact, in Italian it's a wonderful expression. Quelli andò sotto e quei drizzò volando suso il petto. Quelli andò sotto means the Navarrese went under the pitch. And quei drizzò volando suso il petto. And the other one, the devil, straightened up while flying, straightened up his chest. We can see this movement almost like a bird. In fact, Dante talks about a bird. He says, not very different from a duck. Ciampolo went suddenly under the surface when a hawk is trying to catch her. But the duck is too quick, and the hawk is scorned and angry that he wasn't able to catch him. So this fight follows between the devils. They fall into the pitch. They're not able to come out anymore by themselves, so they need to be helped. But it's a devilish infernal mess what follows. At the same time, because all the devils are busy in trying to come out of the situation, Dante and Virgil take the opportunity to go on by themselves, to just leave the demons where they are. And at the end of the canto, Dante says, the mire pair already baked inside their crusts, and we too left them thus confounded. That's the end of the canto. Now we are wondering, okay, you and Virgil left the demons there, but to go where? Where exactly are you going? Because no one so far has yet seen this famous next bridge that supposedly, according to the Malebranche, is going to allow them to cross the ditch. And that was the very first lie they've been told by the devils. So here it concludes this incredibly dynamic and very action-filled canto, just as funny as the previous one. As we said, it's a way to compensate the horror and the seriousness and the depth and intensity that is going to follow in some of the next cantos, from Ulysses canto to the end, really, to the 34th. So it's a little bit, Dante lets us breathe here, we can say that. And it makes us, I think, wonder a little bit about this iconography of the devil, the demons and the devil. Christianity doesn't have the exclusive rights or copyrights on the devil or the demons, because we know that something similar to the devil exists still today in other religions like Islam, There is a kind of similar figure or character in Buddhism as well, and in any case, even before Christianity, there were some similar type of gods or evil gods, even in Egypt, etc., etc. So, but the type of visual, the type of representation of the devil and the demons is fascinating. It's fascinating to think about how it has evolved in history, because Dante shows them here as what they were supposed to be in his times, as fallen angels. They have wings because they are fallen angels, but black and with kind of monster faces, but even though we don't know exactly or precisely how they're looking. And then we have Lucifer, who is described again as just like them, with wings, huge wings, dark, and with the features of a monster, of a scary, terrible monster. However, especially in literature, and I would say in many other type of artistic works, the devil has taken many different shapes. From the terrible, ugly, and scary one, which is maybe the most normative, to the beautiful, seductive, and fascinating one, which arguably we could say it's the one that is most often found in world literature, or maybe at least in the Western literature, thinking about Mephistopheles in Faust, or even the devil representation in some films and movies, like the advocate's lawyer, the devil's advocate, or Lucifer, as played by Robert De Niro. I'm curious to know what people, or what you who are watching this video are thinking about one type of representation of the devil that really you found striking. By reading a book, another book that I think immediately is The Master and Margarita. The devil with his eyes were of different color, and he was a bit of a magician. So it goes really from being somebody who is a pure monster to, in some representation, even taking the shape of a beautiful girl, or a beautiful blonde girl in one of Pasolini's films about the devil, that now I don't remember the title. So this is my question to you. Is there any representation, either in literature or in movies, of the devil or demons that you found particularly striking? One for all that I can bring as a good example is if you think about the movie The Passion of the Christ, there is a representation of the devil in this androgynous character, completely bald, who at the very end of the film is seen screaming towards the sky in defeat, because Christ has risen and has defeated evil. That was, in my opinion, a particularly powerful representation of the devil. But it has really taken so many different shapes, and it's a fascinating. In fact, I'm pretty sure there must be some book that somebody took the time and patience to write specifically about the visualization, representation of the devil in world literature. And if anyone of you has a book to suggest about this topic, I would love to hear their suggestion, because that's something that I would really love to learn about and to read about. Anyway, this was the 22nd canto, and as funny as it is and enjoyable as it is, going forward we're gonna see that Dante is going back to more intense and serious topics in the next cantos, until the dark intensity reaches a real peak in at least 3 to 4 cantos towards the end of Inferno, and I can't wait to get there. So thank you for watching. We'll speak soon.